Welcome to Type Conversion Part 2. Now in Part 1 I kind of laid the basics out for why we need type conversion, kind of how it happens in C++, and in this video, Part 2, I want to dig just a little deeper. Now in C++ there are two main types of type conversion that we can have, or two main kinds. And we'll go ahead and start to call it what you're normally going to see it. You'll seldom see the word type conversion, you will see casting. So there's two ways to cast a particular object to a different type. There's static casting and then there's dynamic casting. And again, when we talk about casting, we're simply talking about type conversion. Now let's talk about static first. When I do a static cast, I'm going to use the command, notice the keyword here, static underscore cast, all run together just like that. Then inside these little braces, I'm going to put the type that I want to cast to. So this is what I want it to be, and then inside the parentheses the expression or the variable that I want to cast. Alright, and here's a good example. I'm going to do a static cast right here, and I'm going to set the variable a to an integer data type. So I'm casting a to integer. Now it seems a bit funky and it looks like it's out of order. Wouldn't it have been better to have a and then int? We'll talk about that in just a second. But this is how we would take a, it might be a long or something like that, and we're going to cast it to an integer. Alright? Now what happens with static casting is the compiler checks the cast when the program is compiled to make sure that it makes sense, that it can deal with it, that everything's okay. Now once the compilation has happened, no further checks occurs, meaning if I get past the compilation without a problem, then nothing else is going to check this, and it will get cast when my program's executing. And if it causes a problem, too bad. We checked it during compilation, and that's our only job, so we're done with it. Alright, make sure you understand that. Then there's dynamic conversion or dynamic casting, and with dynamic casting the conversion is actually checked when the program is executing. Now a lot of times this is considered maybe a little more safe, it's a little more convenient to do static, but then don't just leave it there. There's lots of other reasons and situations when you want to use static over dynamic, but for now just understand the difference between these two. Okay? Now there are two more types of casting that I'm not going to go into here because I don't want to get too deep, but I'm just going to throw them at you so that you know about them, and you can go out and Google these and do a little bit of reading in your spare time. I know you got lots of that. And notice const, C-O-N-S-T underscore cast. This has to do with constants. That's as much as I'm going to say. And then there's reinterpret cast. And this one lets you kind of blow everything away and start over, if you will. All right? That's as much as I'm going to say about those. I just wanted you to know they're out there. Go out and that's your homework for this video. Go out and read more about those and see what you can do. Now there is a type of casting in C++ that you need to be aware of because you're going to see it and it will be a little bit confusing, and that is casting the way Grandpa used to do it. Alright? Well, maybe not Grandpa, but maybe coders just a couple, 3-4 years ago. Alright? Earlier versions of C++ did casting a little differently. Alright? They used this kind of syntax. Alright? They put the type to convert to and then the expression. Alright? Now the expression, if it's more than just a single variable, would have been in parentheses also. So for example, to type the variable a to an integer, you would have typed int in parentheses and then the variable a. Alright? Now this is really cool. It's considered by a lot of people easier to write, easier to read, and all that kind of stuff, and you will still see it out there. However, this old style could be unclear in a lot of different situations. It could produce errors, it could confuse people, it could make the code hard to understand, but you will still see this out there. It was very popular. It's the way everybody did it and everybody got used to it. There are still some situations if you're using MFC and some other things that works better. We don't want to get into all that, but generally, notice the word generally, you should use the new style. You should use static or dynamic. This makes it a little more explicit in the way we write it. It makes it a little easier to understand what the programmer's trying to do, what they're intending to do, and it can save you some time on the troubleshooting side. All right. So anyway, that's part 2 of type conversion. There is a lot going on here. I would strongly recommend that you go out there when you feel comfortable and dig into type conversion a little bit more. But for now, that's the basics. That's enough to get you going and keep you safe. All right.